So I say thank you for your service. I mean, I'd like to see bin Laden dead. It's a bad guy. He died of kidney failure shortly after that. So we don't know exactly what happened in Dallas, in Garland. I just call it Dallas because I grew up there. I grew up in the town right next to Garland. My stomping grounds were Garland. I know where that convention center is. In fact, the wildest girls were from Garland. I spent a lot of time there, a lot of time in Garland. But long story short, when you see them demonizing the police, when you see them claiming the people inside deserved it when they were just exercising their First Amendment, when you hear the New York Times and CNN, we have articles on Infowars.com blaming the people inside and trying to whitewash this and cover it up, you better believe it really happened, because if they had staged this, it would have been a place where there were hundreds of disarmed people, like a school. They would have been conveniently killed by another black op team or by part of their handlers, who would then exfiltrate, get out, and be basically flown to safety, because I've seen this happen before. This didn't fit into any of those narratives, and it looks like a real event. But does that mean then that there aren't other staged events? Absolutely. ISIS is recruiting out of the West. ISIS is in America. ISIS, I believe, and I've been saying this, is going to start attacking shopping malls and convention centers and colleges, and now you see it happening. There have been a bunch of shootings at military bases and a bunch of other shootings of police and stuff by Islamicists. It's going on. And we now know that an FBI informant did meet with the Garland shooting suspect. And then the FBI arrested them, found out they'd been flying to North Africa, and the judge released them. The FBI this time didn't give them guns and didn't say, please go attack, like they do sometimes. Or maybe they did. We just don't know that yet. So because the FBI has a history of this, you have to look at it, and it's fair to say they might have done it. New headline, London Guardian, government agents directly involved in most high-profile U.S. terror plots. See, boom. Same thing the New York Times is saying. But it's beyond that now. That was previously with Al-Qaeda that was made up to a great extent. Most of their leadership really was working for Western intelligence, and that's come out. Now they've retired the old one. They're killing Adam Gadon, the ADL head's grandson, and the Jewish leader of Al-Qaeda. Doesn't anyone believe that? And they're basically getting rid of that old network that the West and Israel had some control of. And they're rising up a new one that's a real jihad army run by Saudi Arabia and Turkey, and with Arabic speakers, and they're going out and finding the bots, as Colonel Schaefer found them, dumb, ex-con, mad at the world. They've got religion. You're not going to talk about my Muhammad. And the police had been tipped off that they'd probably get attacked. They were lying in wait. The guys get out, shoot from their car. They start firing for 1 second, and they're taken out. And that's why you want local police, because if you didn't have local police, the feds could command right down the chain, put in a special team that would have probably stood down for 2 hours and let them go in the building and kill 100 people. So, is it a false flag? This one I don't think is. Was the Boston bombing false flag? Absolutely. Telltale sign. The older brother, Tamerlan, was on the CIA payroll. The Russians blew his cover 2 years before. The FBI said they never heard of him. Turns out they were following him, had met with him over and over again. Family hooked him with major spy agencies. The brother set up, lied about. They tried to execute the younger one to shut him up. Says he's not guilty. Lawyer says he's guilty. Should have been a mistrial right there. Phony as a $3 bill. The media then spins it and says that I'm saying Kraft International was involved in the attack. No, they were wearing Kraft Punisher hats and the Kraft uniform of khakis and black shirts, and were clearly part of a drill, and local news admitted a drill, and so did the Boston Globe, and then they said there was no drill, and that I'm a liar, and that I say Kraft did it, and I never said that. I said there was a drill, there's a cover-up, we need to investigate it. It's clearly a false flag. Does that mean we know exactly what happened? No, but we know it's fake. So let's go ahead and go to Rob Dew's report on this with the history of the FBI and others provocateuring Islamicists. Here it is.
You've probably heard of the shooting at the Prophet Muhammad Cartoons exhibition in Garland, Texas over the weekend. But did you know Daily Mail used pictures from the event, but bowing to political correctness blacked out the offensive images? And thus far, President Barack Obama has been silent about the attacks. And CNN used the event to attack the Second Amendment when it was the Second Amendment that stopped the gunman in their tracks. But now we've learned that the FBI has been watching one of the suspects using an FBI informant. Elton Simpson, the man identified as one of the two gunmen killed, was under surveillance by the FBI and subject of a terror investigation. The FBI has arranged numerous fake terror plots, including the Washington Metro bombing plot, the New York subway plot, the plan to blow up the Sears Tower in Chicago, the plot to bomb the Portland Christmas tree lighting, and others. In 2014, Human Rights Watch released a report stating nearly all high-profile domestic terrorism plots in the United States after 9/11 included the direct involvement of government agents and informants. You can read about all these stories at Infowars.com. Rob Dew reporting for PrisonPlanet.tv.
Can the federal government take credit for saving us from a plot of its own creation? The FBI has foiled about 17 plots to kill Americans during the past 10 years. They all have a common and reprehensible thread. They were planned, plotted, controlled, and carried out by the federal government itself. In all of these 17 cases, from the Fort Dix 6 to the Lackawanna 7 to the Portland parade bomber, the feds found young men of Muslim backgrounds, loners who were bitter at America. They befriended them, cajoled them, and persuaded them that they could change the world by killing Americans. But none of this keeps us safe. All of this makes us less free, as any one of us can be entrapped. And we are fools if we praise the government for exposing a plot of its own creation and saving us from a danger that never existed.
That's Rob Dew, and then a commentary by Judge Napolitano a few years ago when that news first was breaking. It's actually over 100 of these events. He was talking about 17 big ones. It's one thing if you get intel somebody's planning to launch something and then you go approach them and say, hey, let's do this to see if they agree. Then you find out what their plot is. But to lead the thing and organize it is aiding and abetting. It's beyond entrapment. It's orchestrating. It's provocateuring. But see, that was the old Al-Qaeda model. Now they just hype the daylights out of it. Twitter and Facebook let them recruit, but censor us. And you notice a lot of these guys are young black males, already mad, think everybody's being racist to them. They've been in jail. They get recruited by the imam, and they're just it's a perfect storm of idiocy. And they want to be somebody. Meanwhile, the economy is falling apart. Meanwhile, Islamic State just blew up a large part of a market today in Damascus. Our government helped fund all that. It's just crazy. It's like the government's going to protect you from radical Islam, and then this is their proxy army that's doing all of this. I'll tell you the good news, though, the really exciting news, and that's that people are waking up to Jade Helm. The governor, Senator Cruz, have come out and said the people don't trust the government anymore. Hey, can we cue up that Ted Cruz clip again? Thank you. And it shows that the ridicule of NPR, the ridicule of MSNBC, doesn't matter anymore. Now, NPR actually has a big audience. MSNBC doesn't. NPR, taxpayer and publicly funded, has most of the most plump FM stations in the country. And meanwhile, they want to censor and promote fairness doctrine to censor talk radio that's libertarian or conservative. And as I mentioned earlier, FCC commissioners, feds may come for Drudge. Federal Communications Commission member Ajit Pai said over the weekend that he foresees a future in which federal regulators will seek to regulate websites based on political content using the power of the FCC and Federal Elections Commission. He also revealed that his opposition to net neutrality regulations had resulted in personal harassment and threats to his family. And it goes on from there. Yeah, they've said that's the plan. They've said they can regulate it, and we'll do it like they've done talk radio. Because they're messing with the ratings to make us look bad. We covered that in the first hour. They're pulling out the stops because we're cleaning their clocks, folks. And the power structure is so desperate, knowing there's revolution in the air. They don't want it to be peaceful, a revolution of free market ideas, a revolution of prosperity. They are desperately trying to make it a revolution of racial division and infighting. And people are so mad at the government that it's not just poor black people that are mad, want to go after the cops. It is white people. It is Hispanics. It is just people are sick of the government, and the most representative of government is somebody in a uniform. Notice it's the criminals in government that are scared of people in uniform because that's somebody low level that they don't control. Homeland Security says they want to go after the veterans. And then the Soros group wants to make every problem the cops. Of course, there's 300 plus 100 million people, 330 million people, 325 million people, whatever it is now. I think the latest is 327 million, isn't it? Of course there's bad police. Of course the training's bad in many areas. Of course there's horrible thugs in uniform some places. It's a major problem. But the answer to fixing the whole government isn't in federalizing the police and blaming them for everything. I mean, it's like Nazi Germany, but it's almost inverse. They use the cops to take over, but then they're the new group to scapegoat. It's very sophisticated, okay, at helm, but the public doesn't trust Obama. Well, if you can get them to start saying that, then we can go all the way. And this is all about acclimating the public for military takeover. We're not saying it's imminent. It basically already happened. And they talk to the public like they're 5-year-olds and go, that's because, like David Dewhurst said, that's because Alex hates the military. That's right. That's why the military doesn't want to train to take guns, because they're bad too, right? Because they hate the military. We hate who's in control of it. The military is, on average, the most awake group. That's why they're listed as the #1 enemy by the criminals that hijacked the country. Of course, Hitler was afraid of the general staff in the military. Of course, Stalin was afraid of his military. They're the tyrants. They're afraid of it because they're doing illegal things. Let's go to Ted Cruz.
Well, I have a great deal of faith and confidence in Governor Abbott. He is a longtime friend and mentor of mine. You know, I understand the concern that's been raised by a lot of citizens about Jade Helm. It's a question I'm getting a lot. And I think part of the reason is we have seen for 6 years a federal government disrespecting the liberty of the citizens. And that produces fear. When you see a federal government that is attacking our free speech rights or religious liberty rights or Second Amendment rights, that produces distrust as to government. Now, my office, we've reached out to the Pentagon to inquire about this exercise. We're assured that it is a military training exercise. And I have no reason to doubt those assurances, but I understand the reason for concern and uncertainty, because when the federal government has not demonstrated itself to be trustworthy in this administration, the natural consequence is that many of the citizens don't trust what they say.
Open borders outside of law, power-grabbing, Obamacare screw job. I mean, what do you expect people to do? And then, of course, just like Governor Abbott said the same thing, the headlines are, Ted Cruz thinks Obama's going to take over Texas. No, that's what Ted Cruz just said. You people are disgusting crooks. You really are. I mean, you just have to realize our opposition's not misguided dumb liberals, folks. They are taking over. They are pirates. They are laughing. They sit around their boardrooms and talk about how to BS everybody. And they got the Republican leadership blackmailed or bought off, and they're almost as bad, except for Rand Paul, Ted Cruz, Governor Abbott, Ron Paul, people like that. And that's what, when the Democrats are meeting, it comes out, and the Republican leadership, they're scared of what? The Tea Party. And who do they know the Tea Party gets their talking points from? InfoWars. It's not talking points, it's what's going on. I read the stinking legislation. Now, we're running a special police funder operation. They want to shut us down. You see all the attacks. Pray for us. I want to thank you all for your financial support. High-quality nutraceuticals, books, T-shirts, water filters. InfoWarsLife.com, InfoWarsStore.com. A lot of the specials